Part 41. I am the strongest officer of the Straw Hats. Author, Super Red. Chapter 405. The brown lion saw the two people standing in front of Bayou and felt that he had reacted too much. He scratched his head in embarrassment. I'm sorry, don't you see your idol now? I was a little too excited for a while. Bayou looked at the somewhat funny brown lion with a sense of dissonance. Just imagine, a burly man wearing a Navy admiral's uniform recognized Bayou and rushed towards Bayou like a fanatic fan. This is what a scene. The lieutenant generals who were still panting in pain were dumbfounded when they saw this scene. What's going on? Their admiral, the admiral at the naval headquarters, is a fan of Bayou? Isn't Bayou a pirate from the Straw Hat Pirates? For a while, several people were confused. But they didn't dare to say it. No matter who is on either side now, fighting them would be like an eagle catching a chicken. They don't have the ability to compete with these two people, so they can only lying on the ground and pretending to be dead. Sci-fi and Robin also changed their expressions when looking at the brown lion. Good guy, the admiral is a fan of Bayou's brother. Although Bayou's personality is indeed strong, he is not strong. It must have come to this point. They still didn't believe it at the moment. After all, this kind of thing had never happened before. This was the first time they met this brown lion. They had seen too many scheming Navy, so they had to be cautious now. It seemed that he felt the hostility of the two women and saw the suspicion in their eyes. The brown lion scratched his head and said, "Wait for me here, I can prove what I said." After saying that, he sped up and ran back to his control room, not knowing what to do in there. Bayou was also confused. He didn't know that he had fanatical fans among the Navy admirals. The Navy was recruiting admirals. How were they recruited? Seeing the postures of Sci-fi and Robin at this time, Bayou wanted to laugh a little. In his opinion, these two girls did not regard the brown lion as an enemy, but as a love rival. After a while, the brown lion came from he walked out of the monitoring room. He was holding a package in his hand. Brown lion opened the package in front of everyone. To their surprise, since it contained Bayou's reward order and some information about Bayou, it was very comprehensive. From Bayou's first trip to sea to every subsequent change in the bounty order, since Brown Lion has it all, the current naval headquarters is probably not so complete. Look, idol, look, these are all collected by me after a lot of hard work. Brown Lion has been carrying these things with him so that he can show them to Bayou when he sees him. Of course, when he joined the Navy, he did not throw them away, but kept them with him. Now Sci-fi are still. He was doubtful. Bayou gently patted the shoulders of the two women and said, "Don't worry, he has no ill intentions anymore, I can feel it. You must know that Bayou's domineering power is at its peak. Since he said that the brown lion on the opposite side is not in danger, then there is really no danger." Only then did the two women relax, but their eyes when looking at the brown lion also changed. It's okay, it's okay. Everyone, idols, why are you here? You even dressed up in disguise. It seems like you are really destined. Now the brown lion got directly among several people. Secret, of course. They won't just tell the brown lion about their plan. To put it bluntly, although the brown lion is not hostile to them now, it doesn't mean that it won't be in the future. Bayou is not the kind of fool who will agree to everything on the first meeting. They said. Okay. He seemed to feel that it was inappropriate to ask. After all, their status here must have been premeditated. Naturally, he, a stranger, would not be trusted so quickly. Of course, the brown lion was not annoyed either. "Idol, can I join your Straw Hat Pirates? This is my dream." When Brown Lion said this, Bayou was stunned. "Good guy, is it true or not? This guy should be a Navy admiral. Join them as a pirate? This is too nonsense." Are you serious? Bayou said with some doubts. Of course, it was just an accident that I joined the Navy. Then he told a few people about his experience and how he became a Navy officer. Your experience is quite legendary, Bayou said with a smile. This guy is really a weirdo. Hey, don't mention it. It's really unlucky to be a Navy in a place like this. How about this, if you free all these slaves now, I will give you a chance to join us. Bayou doesn't want to do anything at this moment. After all, in his opinion, the brown lion in front of him is a powerful helper. If he can become a naval admiral from a civilian, he must be extraordinary. Okay, let alone freeing these slaves, even if you ask me to attack the world government now, I will be duty-bound, the brown lion said confidently. Then he turned around and came to several lieutenant generals. He kicked the Navy lieutenant who was lying on the ground and said, Hey, don't pretend to be dead, I know you guys, it's not that serious. I felt like I had to get up and let these people go. At this moment, the lieutenant generals who were pretending to be dead stood up and followed the brown lion's instructions. They did not dare to disobey them. 10 minutes later, all the shackles on the slaves were removed, including Lifa's parents. At that moment, all the slaves kowtowed to Bayou. Don't be like this, everyone. This is what I should do. Don't worry, your hard days are coming to an end soon. Go home and hide for a while. Don't be caught by these people again during this time. Bye. You looked at Lifa in front of him and said, Lifa, you go back with your parents first and hide. I will go find you after everything is over, okay? Bayou looked at Lifa with a smile on his face and said dotingly. Well, okay, Lifa happily agreed, and then she and her parents left with the large army. As for Bayou, he didn't want to leave so easily. At this moment, he also asked Brown Lion what happened to the warship. But because Brown Lion is a grassroots general and has only taken office a few months ago, he naturally doesn't know about this kind of thing. But it doesn't matter, it is definitely impossible for them to take away such a big thing, but they can destroy it. Thinking of this, Bayou jumped directly onto the warship and slashed at the warship. What surprised him was that his sword could cut through the underwater prison, since he couldn't understand the warship. This surprised him very much. It seems that this warship is indeed extraordinary. After trying twice to no avail, Bayou decided to ignore it for now and ask Lilam to come over and have a look when he meets Lilam and the others. He didn't think that Lilam didn't have this ability. After all, the dwarves had the construction talent. Yes, the same talent for destroying machines also belongs to Maximum. I am the strongest officer of the Straw Hats. Author, Super Red. Chapter 406. But now, they need to leave here. You must know that such a big thing has happened, and it is impossible for the world government not to send people to check. Just as the brown lion was about to leave, several lieutenant generals behind him grabbed the brown lion's clothes. General, you can't just leave like this. If you leave like this, we will definitely be arrested by those people. The faces of the two lieutenant generals at this time were very ugly, and it could be seen that they were really scared. Although they are in the Navy, here, it is the Tianlong people who have the final say. Even if they are the marshals of the Navy, when they see the 5 Tianlong people, Lao Xing also had to lower his head. As the lowest level of combat power, they naturally did not dare to go against these Tianlong people. Besides, they had a share in freeing these slaves. If this spread to the ears of the higher UPS, they would still be alive. That's strange. Like the brown lions, these people were all promoted recently, so they have no feelings for the Navy. Although they have the rank of lieutenant general, being assigned here is enough to prove that the world government he didn't take them seriously. The brown lion looked back at these people and then at Bayou. After all, he couldn't make the decision now. With Bayou, he was just a little brother at best. Take them with you, but you have to eat this. As he said that, he took out 2 green pills from his pocket. This thing is called smiling half-step epilepsy, and it is highly poisonous. Of course, if you truly surrender, I will naturally give you the antidote. Otherwise, you will die within a month. Don't think that anyone can save you. I have more methods than you. You all have heard that no one in this world can save you except me, who has the antidote. After speaking, Bai threw the green pills to the two of them. As for whether you eat or not, it's up to you. Don't force it. Of course, if you don't eat, we will have no choice but to abandon you. How the Tianlong people deal with you then has nothing to do with us. When he said this, Bai had already made a move to walk out. At this time, the two of them looked at each other. After thinking about it for a moment, they finally decided to swallow it. They had no choice now. If they didn't leave, they will definitely not be able to pass the level of the Tianlong people. There is still a chance to join Bai's camp. Anyone can do this kind of multiple choice question. Bai was very satisfied after seeing the two of them taking the pills, and now he started to prepare some pills. Disguise items such as beards and hair were thrown to them. Brown Lion and the other two lieutenant generals also disguised themselves. The two of them were brothers, so they were so consistent. On the way back, Bai, when he learned that the names of these two people were very strange, they were called De Ming and Xiao Ming. Bai laughed out loud for a moment. Since there are people with such names at this time, it is really strange to talk about it. But this mission is basically has been completed. Although they did not finally destroy the strange warship, they already know that this is the secret weapon of the world government, and they can be more careful when the time comes. As before, just in case, Undine the ability was activated again, and several people disappeared into the night silently. At this time, the 5 old stars had received the information. Pluto Bruton was attacked, and even a general and 2 people who were in charge there were all the lieutenant generals disappeared, and even all the slaves ran away. Strangely, the people who went to investigate found that all the monitoring equipment was disabled. This made the 5 old stars start to become alert. Obviously this was not a coincidence. There must be some premeditation in this. Could it be that the Revolutionary Army has penetrated into the Holy Land Marijoa? This was their first reaction. After all, the previous bear had been transformed into that ghostly appearance by them. The reason why the bear was paraded on the street like a dog was actually to allow the Revolutionary Army to take action. When the time comes they want to catch them all in one go. These are their plots. Following the order, CP0 troops will begin full-scale war preparations today. They will observe all persons entering the city at all times. There is no need to report any suspicious persons, and they will be arrested directly. Yes, after a CP0 officer outside the door heard Wu Laoxing's order, he went down directly. On the other side, Luffy and the others also found a place to live. In their opinion, since they can't alert the snake now, but here they must have eaten and drank well before, but there may be a big battle to be fought next, and they must recharge their batteries during this period. The time agreed upon by everyone is to gather at the original tavern in a week, so there is no rush. During this period, we only have to arrange time. As for Sauron, no one recommends that he act alone. After all, he may never come back once he goes out. The Holy Land of Marijoa is very big. It was time to fight, but no one could be found. On Bai's side, after recruiting a few younger brothers, the team grew again. Before going there, he never thought that he would gain a fanatical younger brother. In the end, the important thing is that this little fanboy is still at the level of a general. And when Bai agreed to his joining, the system had already shown Brown Lion's loyalty, which was 100% unsurprising. This also made Bai's previous feelings towards Brown Lion his guard was down. His current plan is not for him to join the Straw Hat Pirates. He hopes that the Brown Lion and Ming Ming will join the White Navy. After all, only there can their advantages be brought into play. As for the Straw Hat Pirates, we already have enough manpower. If we add 3 more big men, I'm afraid it wouldn't be appropriate. Besides, he's not the captain. This kind of thing still has to be discussed with Luffy. But if you join the White Navy, you don't have to discuss it with anyone. At most he could talk to Zifa and let him know that he had brought him 3 more helpers. After arriving in the resting room, Bayou and Brown Lion talked about their thoughts. To Bayou's surprise, Brown Lion I agreed directly. Idle, I obey your arrangements. Bayou was speechless when he heard this. But according to convention, those who have achieved 100% loyalty can get a baptism from Bayou, which directly increases their strength. As usual, Bayou put his fingers in front of the Brown Lion's forehead, and then began to transfer energy. The color was different every time. Bayou discovered that the color of the Brown Lion this time was actually gold, which should be related to his ability. After all, Bayou had discovered before that when the Brown Lion used the Devil Fruit ability, the hair turned golden. It took the 3 of them a total of half an hour to complete this transmission. Bayou then asked them to go out of the city to join Zifa first, so that they could integrate into the large army faster. The most important thing is, they have been here for a few months and have a good understanding of the deployment of troops here, which will be of great help in the subsequent siege. Brown Lion naturally has no complaints. Anyway, he obeys Bayou's arrangements in everything. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I am the strongest officer of the Straw Hats. Author, Super Red. Chapter 407. This time when he came to the city gate, Bayou found that it was completely different from before. The guards at the city gate had also been replaced by all CP0 troops. Of course he knows a lot about this kind of troops. The world government's intelligence agency is also the world government's trusted lackey. They came to take over the city gate, probably knowing that someone had sneaked in. But at this time, Undine's ability is very useful. As long as there is no one with the strength of an admiral to guard her, her invisibility will not be discovered. Besides, the admiral guarding a city gate would definitely not join in the fun. After saying goodbye to Bayou and others, the Brown Lions left directly. Brother Bayou, aren't you afraid that he will suddenly betray you? Bayou looked at Bayou with big eyes and didn't understand. In his opinion, Bayou was too kind and too trusting to these people. It was obviously not safe for the people he just met like this. Bayou glanced at Bayou next to him, said, "Silly girl, you don't think your brother Bayou is stupid, do you? Your brother Bayou has a way of judging people. As for what Bayou gave those lieutenant generals to eat before, they were actually just candies. The reason why they were so scary was just to make them more obedient. When he saw that their loyalty reached 100%, he also there is no need to make a fuss with that pill." After bidding farewell to the Brown Lions and the others, Bayou now thinks that the world government still has some tricks, and is secretly recruiting troops. The current pirate world is far from as peaceful as it seems on the surface. There will definitely not be only one person like Brown Lion who is directly promoted to admiral, and there may be only one person who thinks like Brown Lion. After all, few people are willing to give up the superior conditions of admiral to join the pirate group. Ah! Come on, there's still some time, let's go shopping. There are still a few days until the gathering time, and Shiryu and the others are here for the first time, especially Shirahoshi. You know, since he joined the Straw Hat Pirates, he has basically been at sea, and this is still the case on land. For the first time, everything here seemed new to Bayou. Suddenly a figure patted Bayou's shoulder from behind, and then ran towards the alley. When Bayou turned around, he happened to see the man's leaving figure. It was obvious that this man was deliberately trying to lure Bayou there. The Mangekyo Sharinon was activated, and there was no ambush in the alley. Only the man just now was there, and looking at that man's attire, Even though he was wrapped, he was wearing a thick cloak, but he was still recognized by Yu at a glance. Crow, commander of the Northern Army of the Revolutionary Army. The big bald head is the standard outfit of this brother. Yu recognized it at a glance. After all, this brother was there in the previous battles and helped them a lot, but every time this brother came with Sabo. Yes, with doubts in my heart. Come on, let's go over and have a look. Yu pulled the two of them into the alley. At this time, Crow took a cigarette and smoked it. He knew that Yu would definitely come. After a while, several people appeared in front of Crow. Brother Crow, when did you get here? Yu went straight to the point. This made Crow a little surprised. Good guy, why doesn't this guy follow the rules? The Crow was speechless for a while. He had already thought about it when he was smoking. How will he answer it later? Yu will ask, who are you first? Then he handsomely took off his hood, revealing his true face, and a little bit of light shone. On his bald head, golden light shone. He had thought about all this, but Yu's sudden sentence completely broke his fantasy. He was a little at a loss for a while. Crow, who didn't communicate much with others, was stunned now. Stopped. Seeing Crow's embarrassed expression, Yu was also confused. What's going on, Brother Crow? Why are you the only one? Where are the others? Hearing what Yu said, Crow recovered and remembered his previous thoughts. He also accidentally discovered Yu and the others today, because Yu and the others are very skilled in disguise, and there are very few people who can spot them. But Crow's insight is different from ordinary people, and all disguises are just childish in his opinion. Sabo was caught straightforward. What? Sabo was caught? By the world government. Yu was very surprised. After all, Sabo held an important position in the Revolutionary Army and was Luffy's brother. If he was caught, things would be in trouble. Yes, we have failed in previous attempts to rescue bears. Crow began to tell what he had encountered before. Originally, several of their Revolutionary Army cadres came together, and the initial purpose was to investigate the underground activities of the Holy Land Marijoya. But just a few days ago they saw the bear being used as a sleigh, being pulled like a dog by the celestial dragons. This made them very unhappy, and they immediately began to discuss how to rescue the bear. When the bear was finally found, it was discovered by the world government. They originally thought that there was no 5 old stars. They were able to escape unscathed. But this time they were not so lucky. It seemed that the 5 old stars had deliberately arranged it. They fell into a trap. Not only Sabo, but Belo Betty, the commander of the Eastern Army of the Revolutionary Army, was also caught at the same time. This time, the 5 old stars used an extremely lethal weapon. Under that weapon, even Sabo and Belo Betty were unable to resist. In the end, under the cover of the two, relying on the ability of his clone, he was able to escape and ascend to heaven alone. The two of them were arrested, and their lives were uncertain. Crow's words made Yu alert. He had fought against Wulaoxing before, and he was very strong, but it is still difficult to completely suppress Sabo and Belo Betty, and during the conversation with Crow, only one of the 5 old stars took action this time, the old man with glasses, Aoki Tanita. Although he knew that this old man was very powerful, it was definitely not enough to make him the reason why the 3 Revolutionary Army cadres were beaten in such a miserable state. Must be because of the weapons mentioned by Crow before. Could it be another ancient weapon? After seeing that huge warship before, Yu knows that the world government still has many trump cards, and the world government that has stood at the top of this world for hundreds of years must also have this background. Their trump cards must be far more than this. Don't worry too much. Now that they have captured Sabo and Belo Betty, it is impossible to deal with them directly due to their urine properties. They will definitely use these 2 people to lure out bigger fish, that is, Dragon and Luffy. Them Yu analyzed at this time. He knew the people in the world government too well. they would definitely not be satisfied by just arresting a few people. Just like Ace back then, they would definitely use these two people as hostages. Catch the big fish behind. I am the strongest officer of the Straw Hats. Author, Super Red. Chapter 408. Of course, what the crow brought them was important information. What they need to do now is to meet up with Luffy and the others and share all the information they know with them. Bayou is not a reckless person. It is more important to be calm at this time. They need to consider the long term. In the next 2 days, they arrived at the agreed-upon tavern in advance. When they had nothing to do, they would go out for a walk. However, they found that the Navy had obviously made big moves recently, because CP0 and the others had begun various searches on the streets, perhaps because of the Revolutionary Army. Bayou thought that they had not been exposed yet, and all the slaves they had freed before were blamed by the world government on the Revolutionary Army. After all, when this happened, the world government's first thought was the Revolutionary Army. They isn't that what they do? As for the Straw Hat Pirates, in their hearts, they are still on the Grand Line. But this time the Revolutionary Army invaded the Holy Land of Marijoya. In their view, it was completely asking for their own death. 5 Old Stars Aoki Tanita said at the meeting that these so-called rebels of the Revolutionary Army will never come back. He is now full of confidence, with Adam's wings in hand, he feels invincible. Especially after capturing 2 generals of the Revolutionary Army alive, I became more confident. He now wants to find Bayou quickly and take revenge. In his opinion, Bayou had disgraced him. As a 5 Old Star, he was pushed to the ground and rubbed by Bayou over and over again. If it weren't for the fact that the Revolutionary Army had already appeared in the Holy Land of Marijoya, he would have wanted to go to sea right now to hunt Bayou. That's right, it's hunting. He now has absolute confidence. Ah, cut it Bayou, who was drinking, suddenly sneezed. Who is thinking of me? Bayou thought in his heart that what he didn't know was that the person was Wu Lao Xin Qing Mu Gu Tian. If he really knew it, he would probably spit out the wine. Time passed very quickly, and the crew members came one after another. When they arrived at the bar, Bayou was surprised that the disguise skills of these people were really good. Even he didn't recognize them at first sight. It was the crow who discovered them, and then they all come together. At this time, Luffy was very happy after seeing a few people again. But when he saw the crow, he was also curious, and immediately asked about Sabo's whereabouts. You know, the crow and Sabo, the relationship between them is very good, almost inseparable. The crow must be there with Sabo, unless... Thinking of this, Luffy immediately asked. Brother Crow, where is Sab? Silence. The crow didn't know what to say to Luffy in front of him. He was also responsible for Sabo being caught, and he knew Luffy's impulses very well, which were reflected in the Ace incident. But since you asked, you must say it come out. In fact, he also planned to tell him, but it was too sudden now. Sabo was caught. It was Bayou who said this. He knew that when the crow mentioned this, he might not be able to control his emotions. Then Bayou repeated to Luffy what the crow told him before. After listening to all this, Luffy, he turned to look at the crow, as if waiting for the crow's confirmation. The two looked at each other, and the crow nodded slightly. Luffy, don't be impulsive. We have taken a long-term view on this matter. The world government must have its own conspiracy now, and Sabo's life should not be in danger now. Bayou knows Luffy very well. With Luffy's temper, after hearing this, he will definitely clamor to save Sabo. But what surprised him was that this time Luffy was unusually calm, and his expression was completely different. To change. Well, I know that the beasts like the world government will definitely make a fuss about them, and we have to discuss it carefully. The Luffy at this time made Bayou stunned. This was still the Luffy he knew. This was still the Luffy who kept shouting to save people when he heard Ace was captured. It seemed that he had discovered Luffy caught the attention of Baiyu and everyone. Luffy smiled bitterly and said, "Don't worry, I won't be impulsive. After all, we are now in the home of the world government, and I can't joke with everyone's lives, right? I know Sabo's strength very well. Can easily subdue Sabo and Bello Betty. The weapon of the 5 old stars must not be simple. Let's wait for reinforcements." Luffy was very calm when he said this. Baiyu was surprised because he felt that Luffy was speaking from his heart. Luffy has also grown up. He is no longer the impulsive captain before. Now he has learned to consider his crew. It seems that it is only a matter of time before Luffy can become a great captain and become the Pirate King. Baiyu sighed, and at the same time he was very pleased. He had watched Luffy grow up all the way. There was a time when he thought that Luffy could become the Pirate King. He was too careless and thoughtless. But now it seems that Luffy is also constantly growing up. Growth. The careless and heartless boy in front of him has now become a man, a real captain of the Straw Hat Pirates. This is what he wants to see, and it is also what Luffy must change. In the following time, the crew members also began to assemble one after another. As for the Brown Lion and the others, they had also successfully boarded Zifa's ship. However, because of the large number of troops and in order to be better concealed, they did not arrive in advance. It would take some time for them to be discovered. But at this time, Baiyu discovered that even if they were well hidden, they could still be easily discovered. After all, they were an army. The CP0 organization of the world government was not a pig's head. At the moment Baiyu came up with an idea, and that was Undine. Undine's invisibility might allow them to arrive at the Holy Land Marijoya quietly. However, the current Undine is not strong enough. If they want to be invisible for a long time on a large scale, the army needs a strong enough mental power. But Baiyu has a way. After discussing with Lilam, he handed a spiritual gem to Lilam, which Baiyu had obtained by unintentionally completing the system task before. But in this world, he really doesn't know what the use of mental power is, and he doesn't have any mental skills. But now it seems that it is best to use it for Undine. Baiyu is going to do it for Undine, a crown that strengthens one's own mental power. Of course, only Lilam can do this. This will make Baiyu sigh. Each of his crew members has their own proficient abilities, which is really a big help. Got it? I need 5 days. Lilam took the spiritual gem from Baiyu's hand and said. 3 days, we don't have that much time now. It only takes the White Navy 4 days at most to arrive at the predetermined location, and the search operation of CP0 is still continuing, so they don't have much time. I am the strongest officer of the Straw Hats. Author, Super Red. Chapter 409. Of course, letting Lilam make tools also requires space. This kind of place is obviously not feasible. CP0's search is very strict, and they must go out first. After discussing with Luffy and others, Baiyu left the city with a few people. This time it was still the same group of them, but there was one more, Lilam. Originally Frankie was also planning to come, but Baiyu felt that too many people would attract attention, so he didn't bring Frankie with him. Several people came to the hiding place of the clear sky. In order not to attract attention, they had hidden the 2 ships before, and they were still some distance away from the Holy Land of Marijoya. After more than an hour's journey, after a few people arrived on the boat, Lilam started her production. The time was tight and she didn't have much time. In the past 3 days, apart from eating and sleeping, Lilam had been studying the spiritual gem. Fortunately, the information previously transmitted to Lilam by the system seemed to have this knowledge, so Lilam was able to make it easily. 3 days passed very quickly. During this period, Baiyu would take Baising and Undine from time to time to observe the external environment of Holy Land Marijoya. After all, this war was inevitable and they had to make complete preparations. Underwater is Shirahashi's battlefield. To Shirahashi's surprise, the underwater part of the Holy Land Marijoya is also made of sea stone, which is extremely hard. Just at noon on the third day, when everyone was eating, suddenly a huge noise came from Lilam's manufacturing workshop. Then Lilam ran out of it in disgrace. Bayu was shocked by Lilam's appearance, and his first reaction was that the production failed. At that moment, I also came to Lilam. How about it, are you okay? It doesn't matter if you fail. We will think of other ways. Looking at Lilam's appearance at this time, Bayu felt a little distressed. He knew how hard it was for Lilam these days. He basically had no time to eat and very little time to sleep. Anyway, when he was awake, Lilam was working. When he was sleeping, Lilam was still working. He didn't even know if Lilam had slept in the past few days. Looking at Bayu's appearance, Lilam showed her white teeth. He, brother Bayu, who said I failed? You still don't know my strength. When she said this, Lilam's eyes were somewhat proud. After saying that, she took out a crown directly from the bag behind her. The crown looked very simple, and the green gem in the middle was particularly dazzling, exuding light. And Bayu can feel a very powerful force in the gem. This is several times stronger than when Bayu gave Lilam the gem before. This is the spiritual strengthening crown I made. Lilam said with a smile. Wow! So beautiful. Undini flew to Bayu's shoulder at this time and looked at the crown. The crown was not big, after all, it was made according to the proportions of Undini's body, but it looked very delicate, and it looked like it was made by a skilled craftsman. Do you like it? Bayu picked up the crown and looked at Undine on his shoulder. Undine is very happy now, but she knows this is made for her. Try it on. Bayu carefully placed the crown on Undine's head. The size was just right. But just after Bayu put it on, Undine felt an energy begin to spread from the crown to Undine's whole body. This power very gentle, but extremely powerful. This is spiritual power, a magical treasure that can exert the power of the elves. So comfortable and warm, Undine said unconsciously. For the next time, Undine just floated in the air, motionless, seeming to be receiving the energy from the crown. Bayu and others didn't bother, just looked at her. Lilam, thank you for your hard work. Go eat something and have a good rest. Bayu touched Lilam's head and said. It's better not to touch it. With this touch, Undine's pretty face suddenly turned red. Fortunately, the previous explosion had turned her face into black coal, so she didn't let it go. Everyone found. No, I'm not tired, this is what I should do. After saying that, he ran towards the cabin as if running away. Seeing this scene, Bayu was a little stunned. What did I do? Why is Lilam looking like this? At this time, Robin, who was standing next to Bayu, covered his face and said with a smile, stop teasing the little girl. As soon as the sentence came out, Bayu was speechless for a while. When did he flirt? In the afternoon, Bayu discovered the mighty warships on the distant sea. This is not a warship of the world government. He knows very well that this warship is a White Navy warship. He had been communicating with Sci-fi in the past few days, and their progress was faster than Bayu thought, and they actually arrived one day earlier than planned. Of course, Bayu picked up the phone bug the first time he saw the warship. This place is not far away from the Holy Land of Marijoya. Just in case, they must hide first and discuss the next step of the plan. Sci-fi naturally understands it very well. As a former Navy Admiral and Navy Chief Instructor, he still knows a lot about the Holy Land Marijoya, and he is also very aware of the CPO's detection capabilities. Rest where you are and hide, Sci-fi said to the several lieutenant generals behind him. Then those warships began to look for a place to dock and hide themselves. As for Sci-fi and several other generals, they came in the direction of Bayu in small boats. Their idea was first enter the city to join the large army, and then discuss the battle plan, and then conquer the Holy Land in one fell swoop, working together internally and externally. The boat was very fast, and soon it arrived at the hiding place of Bayou and the others. Also accompanying them was Smog the Smokeman. The Smokeman now has the strength of a general, and his walking posture is decent. Of course, after seeing Bayou, he was still respectful. He didn't dare to show off in front of Bayou, since he was strengthened by Bayou's ability. After that, he worshipped Bayou even more. In his heart, Bayou is the god of this world. "Boss, here we come." The boat docked, and Zifa took Smoker aboard the Weatherlight. "Well, we will sneak into the city to meet everyone in the evening, and we will discuss important matters then. We haven't eaten yet, so let's go in and have something to eat." After Bayou finished speaking, he walked towards the cabin. In fact, they could leave now, but considering that Lilam had just fallen asleep after working for such a long time, he couldn't bear to wake him up now. His original plan was Zifa and the others will not arrive until tomorrow. Unexpectedly, Zifa will arrive so much faster than he thought. In the cabin, Zifa began to talk about the situation of their army during this period, including some new members. There were several very strong people, and of course without Bayou's orders, he did not dare to appoint generals at will, and at most he was given the position of lieutenant general. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I am the strongest officer of the Straw Hats. Author, Super Red. Chapter 410. According to the plan, they would first enter the Holy Land of Marijoya, and then Lilam would destroy the ancient warship first, and then let them attack the city. Bayou was quite worried about that warship. For some reason, he always felt that if he didn't get rid of the warship, this operation would not go smoothly. This thought kept lingering in his mind, making him very uneasy. After 2 days of ideological struggle, he decided to destroy the ancient warship first. As for the White Navy, they were not in a hurry. Zifa naturally heard what Bayou said, and at that moment he knew what warship Bayou was talking about. It turned out that Zifa had seen this warship before, and all of their earliest naval admirals had seen this warship. When facing the pirates of the old era, the world government did use it, which was extremely lethal, and his name was Pluto Bruton, the most evil and powerful ancient warship. After hearing what Zifa said, Bayou realized why there were so many ancient characters on it. That thing can destroy an island with one shot. When Zifa said this thing, there was obviously some fear in his eyes. It could be seen that he had truly seen its power. Don't worry, we have skilled craftsmen like Lilam. Even if it is an ancient weapon, as long as it is a ship or a warship, it will not be a problem for Lilam. At this time, Bayou was full of confidence in Lilam. After all, before this, Lilam could do it for her no matter what he needed. Of course, this time will be no exception. After exchanging the details again, Zifa and several others returned to the White Navy again. Originally, Bayou was going to take them into the city, but according to Zifa, it might not be appropriate if he himself was not in direct command of the White Navy. After careful consideration, Bayou decided to listen to Zifa's opinion. Late at night, Lilam finally woke up from her sleep. This was her first sleep in recent days, and she slept very soundly. When she got up and walked out of the deck, she saw everyone already ready to go. Let's go back. Bayou patted Lilam's shoulder and said. After saying that, he put on the waterproof armor, and under the leadership of Bai Sing, rushed to the city gate from the waterway at an extremely fast speed. Now Undine is under the spiritual crown. With the blessing, the invisibility technique released, whether it was range, time, or anti-reconnaissance, was not on the same level as before. They had also tested it specially before, and what surprised them was that even Bayou's sightings color domineering, can no longer detect the invisibility technique currently displayed by Undine. Of course, this thing still cannot fight. Once the host takes the initiative to fight, the invisibility state will be released immediately. Bai thinks this is quite normal. After all, if you can be infinitely invisible without being noticed, and in a large area, that would be awesome. Then wouldn't the invisible army attack the Holy Land? With this ability, everyone sneaked into the Holy Land at the last moment when the city gate was closed at night Marijoa. And those well-equipped CP0s are useless in their eyes. If the 5 old stars knew about these things, they would be so angry that they would vomit blood. Bai and the others' destination is very clear, that is the previous warship hiding place. In his opinion, the huge warship will definitely not be suddenly moved to other places. The world government can at most arrange more manpower to guard it. After all, they are very confident in the strength of this ancient warship and are not afraid of it. Those people from the Revolutionary Army came over to carry out sabotage. In their hearts, they felt that if the Revolutionary Army could sabotage it, it must have been sabotaged before and would not wait until now. As for this mission, Bai did not plan to bring too many people, so he let them go in advance. Bai Xing and Robin went back. Naturally, they knew what he was thinking. This time there was one more Lilam, and Lilam had no ability to protect herself. If a fight really broke out, Bai was worried that he would not be able to protect so many people. In the night, 2 figures and an elf shuttled through the dark streets. In the current Holy Land of Marijoa, there are many CP0 white suits patrolling even at night. It can be seen that they are interested in the Revolutionary Army this time. They attached great importance to the invasion. After all, they had captured 2 generals of the Revolutionary Army. They knew that the Revolutionary Army would rescue them. It was only a matter of time. They came to the sewer manhole cover where Li Fa had brought them before. They opened the cover with ease and then got down out of the pipeline. They came to the underground world again, and it was still as dirty and messy as ever. Because Undini's mental power was enhanced this time, after they got down to the underground world, they traveled invisibly throughout the entire process, in order not to be caught. Discovered. After more than 10 minutes of journey, we finally arrived at our destination. When Lilam saw the ancient warship for the first time, she was shocked by this big thing. She originally learned about the power and hugeness of this warship from their mouths. In fact, she already had a clue in her mind, but she didn't expect that the real one would be so big. Take action, Bai said to the 2 little guys behind him. The guarding ability this time was indeed much stronger than before, and the slaves were also newly captured, and the men in black were all replaced by CP0 troops. As for the guarding generals, who it was, Bai didn't see it for a while. Because Lilam didn't know any fighting skills, she ran very slowly. Bai picked her up directly, jumped towards the warship in a leap, and disappeared quietly in the next second. We arrived at the control room of the warship quietly. This is the soul of the warship. Different from other warships, the warships here have various ancient characters. What, can you destroy this place? Bai said while looking at Lilam. Lilam was pacing back and forth here. This was the first time she had seen this kind of warship, but at this time she still said confidently, yes, but it may take some time. The Haki of Wisdom and Information was activated again, and this time Bai covered this small space to block the detection of those powerful people. At this moment, the old man Aoki Tanada with 5 old star glasses in the monitoring room suddenly felt something strange. Because before this area was being perceived by him, but just now, something seemed to escape his perception. At that moment, he stood up and walked directly towards the warship. As he moved, Bai instantly sensed the old guys. After all, they have fought against each other many times. Although what they feel this time is actually different from before, Bai can be sure that it must be Aoki Tanida. Somebody is coming. Lilam is already in action at this time. King Mugushin must not be allowed to come here now. He must go out to fight and attract the old man's attention. As for here, Undine can use his spiritual power to cover this place. An area becomes invisible. From the outside, there is nothing unusual. If a fight breaks out later, no one will notice it. I am the strongest officer of the Straw Hats. Author, Super Red. Chapter 411. Just when the old man with glasses, Aoki Tanita, walked out of the monitoring room and came outside. The CP0 officer who was patrolling at this time was startled. You must know that at this time, the old man is usually sleeping. If he suddenly comes out, is he going to release water? This was the first thought of Commander CP0. But the next second, he felt something was wrong, because Aoki Yashin's momentum was different now. At the same time, Baiyu, who came out of the warship, also looked at King Mugayu. Baiyu just looked down at King Mugayu without saying a word. Seeing Wulaoxing staring at one place, the CP0 officer also looked at the warship out of curiosity. The next second, he was greatly frightened. As the commander of CP0, this area is now under his control, but what is going on with this man now? Because Baiyu is now disguised, they don't know that this is Baiyu, they just feel that there is an intruder suddenly. He quickly sounded the alarm, and then came to Aoki Gushin, making a defensive posture. And Aoki Tanita didn't need the protection of these little minions at this time. After pushing away CP0 who was in the way of him, a look of ecstasy appeared on his face. I really didn't expect that you people from the Revolutionary Army are really brave and dare to come here. The old man with glasses looked at Baiyu and said confidently. At this time, Baiyu was also stunned. Good guy, my disguise is okay, and they actually think that I am a member of the Revolutionary Army, but it doesn't matter. Baiyu was also secretly happy after learning that his identity was not exposed. It would be best not to expose his true identity. After all, this way he could continue to hide the fact that the Straw Hats came here, which would also have a great impact on their plan. Good help. Deliberately lowering his voice, Baiyu looked at the old man with glasses in front of him and said, You are Aoki Gayu, one of the 5 old stars. I think you are nothing more than that. The provocative tone was accompanied by the sarcastic expression, which made people feel extremely unbeatable. But what surprised Baiyu was that the old man had no reaction when faced with him like this. This is not the Aoki Tanita he knows. You know. When I met him before, there was no time when this old man didn't blow his beard and stare. What happened today? His temperament changed drastically. But what Baiyu didn't know was that, as the 5 old star, Aoki Tanata, in addition to facing he really wasn't like that when facing other people. At this moment, Aoki Yata looked the most normal, with his eyes full of confidence and endless majesty. He looked at Baiyu as if he were looking at prey. Both of your leaders were captured alive by me. Do you think you have the ability to escape from me? Why, is your leader Long just a greedy person who is afraid of death? Are you going to die one by one if you are asked to come here? King Mugayu's eyes were full of disdain at this time. He, our leader naturally has more important things to do. As for dealing with you, there is no need for him to take action at all. After saying that, Baiyu deliberately made an attack stance. Since the equipment disguised himself, he couldn't use all the moves he had used before this time. After all, he has fought with this old man for so many years. If he uses the previous skills, he will definitely was directly recognized. At this time, CP0's lackeys had already swarmed up, and these minions were not even worthy of being warmed up by Baiyu. They were immediately solved with 3 strikes and 2 divided by 2. Aoki Gayu just watched from a distance. He wanted to see if this guy was capable and worthy of his action. In his position, not just any cat or dog could make him take action. But while he was watching leisurely and contentedly, Baiyu suddenly rushed towards King Mu next to Gayu. He punched out. Of course, Baiyu did not use all his strength for this punch, but just wrapped his fist with arm domineering, an ordinary punch. Aoki Gyu's nightmare lay across his chest, easily blocking the punch. Hit. What, is that all you have? King Mugyu looked down on Baiyu even more after this fight. But at this time, Baiyu's idea was to show weakness as much as possible and distract the old man's attention so that he could not notice Lilam's position so that he could fight for them. More time. Hee, don't worry, I haven't started yet. Then Baiyu's hair began to gradually turn golden. This was a skill Baiyu had learned from Brown Lion before, and this was the first time he used it. When King Mugyu saw this skill, he was also stunned. Devil Fruit User, this was King Mugyu's first reaction. In the following battle, King Mugyu also became a little more serious, but Baiyu, who deliberately did not use his strength, was naturally no match for the old man, and was beaten back by the old man. This made King Mu retreat. Gyu's self-confidence has greatly increased. You must know that when he met Baiyu before, he was pushed to the ground several times and beaten by Baiyu. It has been a long time since he felt this kind of unilateral crushing. Okay, I've had enough fun, and today I'm going to show mercy and let you go and be imprisoned with the remnants of Sabo. After saying that, he held the knife with both hands, and the aura around him changed instantly. Baiyu knew that this old man was going to be serious, and he had to be a little more serious with this blow to avoid being hit. The next second, a slash hit directly from King Mugyu's. The blade flew towards Baiyu, and it was so powerful that even the sea water was cut off. But what surprised King Mugyu was that the man in front of him actually dodged the blow he was about to take down Baiyu. This surprised him very much. In the previous battle, he thought he had figured out the trump card of the man in front of him. Logically speaking, he couldn't dodge this knife, but what was going on? Doubtful, very doubtful. But looking at Baiyu again, Baiyu's clothes at this time it's broken. Of course, this was Baiyu's deliberate move, otherwise the old man's knife wouldn't even be able to touch him, but it's not like you have to do a full set of tricks to act. Sure enough, Baiyu's acting skills are really good, and he deceived Aoki like this. At that time, King Mugyu had already begun to doubt himself, whether he had just cut off the target. Good boy, I didn't expect you to have two brushes. It seems I underestimated you. Lilam and Undini in the control room were still working hard at this time. But this sudden stop also made King Mugyu discover something. At that moment, he also winked at the CP0 coder next to him. And CP0 the coder also understood it and walked towards the control room with his people. Seeing this scene, Baiyu became a little uneasy. Neither Lilam nor Undine had any fighting skills. If they were really caught, it would be a disaster. Trouble. At that moment, he also activated his 8-gate Dungia, relied on his super speed to arrive at Lilam's side before everyone else, then picked up Lilam and ran out. This sudden change also made King Mugyu was stunned. He had seen this state before, and he had fought Baiyu in this state several times before. At this time, he only had one thought in his mind: could this person be Baiyu? I am the strongest officer of the Straw Hats. Author, Super Red. Chapter 412. But the next second, his suspicion disappeared, because Baiyu was not such a good person. But now, these people are ready to run away. Baiyu asked Lilam in his arms at this time, how is it? How much damage has been done? It's probably 70% damaged. Even if they can repair it, it will take a lot of time, Lilam said confidently. Enough. After seeing Lilam's words, Baiyu was very satisfied. 70% is already very good. After all, the time is short. It can only be said that the old foxes of the world government actually asked that old guy to come and guard this place this time suddenly. Baiyu felt a hint of uneasiness. Behind him, Baiyu suddenly felt a powerful murderous aura and the smell of blood. That kind of smell could not be emitted without stepping through the mountain of corpses and the sea of blood. It turned out that behind them King Mugyu had already taken out the wings of Adam at this time. He was no longer calm at this time. After seeing the red blood vapor appearing, he could no longer remain calm. Regardless of whether it was Baiyu or not, he would solve this problem. As long as everything related to Baiyu, he must be completely destroyed. Adam's wings slowly opened, and the surrounding air began to be completely distorted at this moment. Whoops, an arrow was shot, and huge destructive force flew towards Baiyu and others. This was the first time Baiyu felt fear, and the power was very powerful. It made Baiyu feel that if he really got this arrow, he might be even he couldn't withstand it. But fortunately, he was very agile, and Aokigaya didn't use all his strength. After all, he couldn't use his power here. This is an important military base of the world government. If he pulls away Adam with all his strength, if the wings were used, this place would probably be reduced to ashes in an instant. The wings of Adam can completely do this. But even so, Baiyu was injured by the sword and arrow just now. Although it was not serious, it still made Baiyu feel heartbroken. Surprised. He didn't expect that the world government had so many trump cards. In this short period of time, he saw two such powerful weapons. Ruling the world for hundreds of years is really no joke, with people like them who have become monks halfway. There is still a big gap in the background behind him. Of course, this is also because he is holding Lilam and Undine in his arms. He can't let these two people get hurt. Everything must be safe for them. Seeing that his wings of Adam did not leave any white feathers, the old man with glasses was not angry. In fact, he just tried the power of this thing this time. He was very satisfied with its power, and only he knew that this time how much strength was used. Baiyu, I really hope to meet you soon, so that you can see the true power of my Adam wings. I will definitely let you die in my hands. The fanaticism in his eyes and the ferocious smile made the CP0 officer beside him so frightened that he could not speak. After a while, a CP0 soldier came to the two of them. Report, according to the engineer's report, the warship was damaged, and we may need time to repair the damaged part. As soon as these words came out, King Mugayu, who was originally calm, was no longer calm. What? On Baiyu's side, after breaking away from the battle, he had used Undine's ability to escape. In their opinion, those CP0 pursuit troops were useless. It can't keep up with their speed at all, not to mention that they are invisible now. Even if they stand in front of them, they can't notice it. This is Undine's enhanced ability. This is so enjoyable and enjoyable. Undine stood on Baiyu's shoulder at this time, fluttering her little wings and said. Baiyu said angrily, why are you enjoying yourself? You weren't there during the fight. But I don't have the ability to fight either. After Baiyu said this, Undine thought for a while and said angrily. Haha, okay, both of you have made great contributions, so I will give you first-class credit this time. When Baiyu said this, the two of them were very happy. You know, Baiyu rarely praises others. Half an hour later, several people arrived at the previous meeting point. At this time, everyone in the Straw Hats also, they are all here, and even several cadres of the Revolutionary Army have come. They were all brought by crows, and the next step is the plan. They are preparing to cooperate internally and externally, and the White Navy from the outside will attack the city gate. Then they will go deep behind the enemy lines and attack directly. Huang Long. Of course, the large forces of the Revolutionary Army are also outside. According to the previous plan, Undine can simultaneously let the large forces of the Revolutionary Army and the White Navy enter the predetermined attack point invisibly, giving the Navy a surprise. Of course, this matter is left to Shirahoshi, Undine and Jinbei. After all, except for Undine, they are all fishmen, so they can reach their destination faster. As for the others, their goal is to be the home of the world government. It is also the final hiding place of the 5 old stars. Thinking of this, Baiyu is still a little excited. This battle is of great significance to them, and it is also of great significance to these oppressed people. The rule of the Tianlong people is about to end. However, Bai Yu's actions this time reminded the world government once again. In the World Government Conference Room, all the important people were there at this time. The 5 old stars, including the naval commander, marshal, and general, were all in the conference room. They discussed the question is about the Revolutionary Army. Everyone still thinks that these two incidents are related to the Revolutionary Army. After all, they hold Sabo and Belobidi in their hands. In their view, these actions of the Revolutionary Army are all to cause trouble. Their attention, so that they can rescue Sabo. Everyone else agreed, but the old man Aoki Gayu with glasses had different opinions. After all, he and Baiyu had fought in the underground world before. Although he didn't look like Baiyu, he exuded that the red blood vapor still made him a little afraid. In this world, he had only seen Baiyu possess the blood vapor before, so he suspected that even if that person was not Baiyu, he might have something to do with the Straw Hat Pirates. In addition, they had not caught the Straw Hats in the Windless Belt before. Maybe the Straw Hats would seize this opportunity and come to the Holy Land Marijoya. Of course, the status of the 5 old stars is also changing now, although they were all on equal footing before, but since Aoki Gayu obtained the wings of Adam, this balance seems to have been broken. The power given by the wings of Adam also made Gayu Aoki start to indulge. I wonder if it was Adam's wings. Wings affected Aoki Gayu's mind, or it was the wings of Adam that aroused King Mu Gayu's desire for power that had been hidden for many years. Even in this kind of meeting, his right to speak was already faintly higher than that of the other 5 old stars. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I am the strongest officer of the Straw Hats. Author, Super Red. Chapter 413. Of course, at Aoki Gayu's request, they also began to bring the Straw Hats into the discussion. As for Sabo and the others, they were ultimately considered to be capital that could be used to threaten the Revolutionary Army, so they had no plans to do anything to them for the time being. Baiyu was already making final preparations. After discussion, they felt that after several days of observation, early in the morning was when the Navy's defense was at its weakest, and also when it was easiest to conquer. So they planned to set the time for action in the early morning. Just as he said, Baiyu took Undini and Shirahoshi Jinbei out of the city late at night. Originally he was not planning to go out, but the Aoki Gayu he met last time gave him a wake-up call, and he felt that he still had to face it. Without further ado, take action overnight. In the early morning of the next day, before the sun came out, Baiyu and others had already taken action, and at this time he was already standing on the White Navy's warship. Undine's ability was also activated at this time. Not only the warships of the White Navy, but even the warships of the Revolutionary Army were also shrouded in Undine's ability. When everyone saw Undine's ability, they were all amazed. They had never seen such an ability before. Such large-scale invisibility can be said to be a miracle. Even an old man like Zifa, who has worked hard at sea for so many years, has never seen such a magical thing. But when all this happened to people around Baiyu, everything became so normal again. After all, he, an old man, can now rejuvenate himself and become dozens of years younger. He doesn't think there are other things that Baiyu can't do. The ship is still getting closer, and it is not far from the city wall of the Holy Land Marijoya. At this time, Navy Marshal Qingji was looking into the distance on the city wall. He is very unwilling now. Since he, a dignified naval marshal, has been assigned to look at the city wall, these are the orders of the 5 old stars, and he really does not dare to resist. I murmured in my heart, how can the sea be so calm, how can it be as scary as what the 5 old stars said last night? It is the Revolutionary Army, and it is the Straw Hat Pirates group. These old guys do all the dirty work for me. Damn it, if I had known this, who would be willing to do this kind of naval marshal? You know, you were so happy when Aokiji was promoted to Marshal of the Navy. He really thought that was the #1 position in the Navy. But after he got this position, he realized that it was not what he thought. The gap is a bit too big. Above him are not only the naval commander, but also the 5 old stars, and even higher level figures, and he is just a tool of the 5 old stars to the outside world. At the moment, the warship has reached the target point, and this position has already it is now possible to fully attack the city wall troops of the Holy Land Marijoya. The Smoke Man is also exerting his ability at this time, and thick fog begins to spread from the warship. This makes the originally leisurely and contented Aokiji on the city wall begin to become alert. As a naval marshal, it goes without saying that he has great abilities. He felt something was wrong at the first sight of the thick fog that suddenly rose in front of him. Alert, ring the bell. King Z looked seriously, looked into the distance and said to the navy next to him. This sudden change also shocked the navy next to him. Just now, the navy marshal was crossing his legs, but now he is so serious all of a sudden. Look, it seems that things are not simple anymore. But just when he was about to ring the bell, suddenly a cannonball accurately hit the city wall. With the arrival of the first cannonball, there was a hail of bullets. This made everything the unsuspecting navy was immediately frightened. The next second, Aokiji's ice age started. Now he already knew what happened, although he didn't know what method these people used to get here so quietly. But now is not the time to think about this. The Ice Age's ability freezes all the navies on the sea level. Aokiji wants to use this move to slow down the attack speed of these enemies. At the same time, the navies around him also sound the alarm. That is, the big bell that came to attack the city would not ring until the moment of crisis. The huge bell rang at this moment, echoing in the sky of the Holy Land Marijoya. At this time, the admirals who were still resting were also struck by this sound. The alarm bell woke up. This bell has not sounded for too long. As long as the bell rings, it means that the Holy Land Marijoya has entered the first level of combat readiness, and all generals must rush to the battlefield as soon as possible. At this time, Qingjiao, the arranged Ice Age, was actually easily integrated. This time it was not Fire Fist Ace's ability. It was Smoke Man's smoke. After being strengthened by Baiyu, the smoke can turn red at this time and even produce the high temperature and destructive power are completely different from before. This is what Smoke Man is most proud of now. You know, if he met Aoki Pheasant before, he would have no chance of defeating him. In fact, his relationship with Aoki Pheasant has always been not bad. Aoki Pheasant had saved him before. If possible, he wouldn't want to be an enemy of Aoki Pheasant, but now he has no choice. The situation is forcing him. However, he still has an idea in his mind, which is to instigate rebellion against Aoki Pheasant. He knew that King Z was not happy since he became the Marshal of the Navy, and he did not feel the so-called supreme power. He just came to another position and was dominated by others. When Smoke Man did not join the White Navy, Qing Pheasant would still call him to complain from time to time, so Smoke Man felt that he had a chance to instigate Qing Pheasant against him. After telling Zifa and Baiyu these words, Baiyu also agreed to Smoke Man's request. After all, in Baiyu's heart, actually he also feels that Qing Pheasant is not bad, but has a different stance. Now that Zifa is on his side, it will definitely be helpful in instigating Qing Pheasant to rebel. Even Zifa also thinks Qing Pheasant is the most likely candidate. One of the 3 veteran generals who was instigated to rebel. Of course, the stubborn Akainu had already been eliminated by Baiyu. Let me do it, the Smoke Man volunteered after destroying Qing Pheasant's ice. Go ahead, for such a volunteer, Baiyu will naturally not refuse, and since the Smoke Man has been strengthened by him, he does not think that the current ability will be inferior to Qing Pheasant. Just let Qing Pheasant see the current strength of the Smoke Man. Maybe this can also be used as a bargaining chip for him to come over. After getting a positive answer, the smoke man held a cigarette in his mouth, turned into a ball of smoke and floated into the air, and soon came to the front of Ching Pheasant. At this time, the artillery fire on the warships continued, and the naval firepower on the city wall also began to counterattack after a brief stagnation. But now the counterattack has missed the best opportunity, because the White Navy and the Revolutionary Army have already begun to land. Barrier fruit user Bartolomeo's barrier can play a very critical role in this kind of battlefield. He built a huge barrier shield in front of the army so that the Navy's firepower could not break through his defense. This is also allow the White Navy, Revolutionary Army, and Straw Hat Pirates to land smoothly. I am the strongest officer of the Straw Hats. Author, Super Red. Chapter 414. At this time, the Smoke Man Smoker had already arrived in front of Ching Pheasant. Sure enough, it's you, but why did your smoke turn red? Have you awakened? Ching Pheasant will be very curious now. He knows very well about Smoker's abilities. It was impossible for him to destroy his Ice Age before. You may not believe it, but our boss Bayou helped me break through. I'm afraid my current strength is not inferior to yours, Smog said confidently at this time. Boss? Why did Bayou become your boss? Did he help you? But thinking of this, it makes sense. If others may not have this ability, but to that man who is full of secrets, this kind of thing is still very likely to happen. Come on, let's have a fight. Let you see what my ability is after the fruit is awakened. Smoker smiled and looked at King Z. Just when King Z was about to say something else, Smoker's fist had already come over, and this punch made King Z very nervous. Unexpected, because he didn't see how the fist came, and it just floated away quietly. This made King Z very puzzled. He was very clear about the shortcomings of Smog's ability, that is, his speed was very slow. With his agility is completely avoidable, but what happened to that punch just now? Just when Aokiji was in a daze, another punch came. This time, Aokiji confirmed again that Smoker's attack, different from before, his smoke attack can actually make him invisible now. In this case, it will be difficult to solve. I didn't expect that after you awakened your fruit ability, you would be so powerful. Yes, but don't even think about looking at me. Don't forget that you have never defeated me since you were a child. Seeing the change in Smoker, King Z smiled instead. He immediately started to create ice blade flying knives around him. He headed towards Smoker. This time he would not hold back, since Smoker wanted to compete with him. For his own sake and to respect Smoker, he will show his true strength no matter what. At this time, other naval units have also arrived one after another. But the generals behind him seem to we also encountered difficulties, because other Straw Hat Pirates crew members and Revolutionary Army cotters who were on the streets of Holy Land Marijoya were also on the streets. After the battlefield opened, they waited here with a simple purpose, to wait for them to come over. Naval reinforcements. They must stop the naval support forces before outside troops attack. Oh, Straw Hat Kizaru was also in the support team at this moment, wearing a pair of glasses and looking at the people in front of him. After Luffy saw Kizaru, he didn't say anything and went straight up to fight. Now is not the time to chat. Seeing this, Kizaru is not surprised that Luffy is reckless. After all, this kid has always been like this. He has been so reckless for so many years, and he has not changed at all. At this time, the Holy Land of Marijoya has become a mess. Both sides the forces are fighting fiercely both in the city and outside the city. Of course, the 5 old stars have not yet come out at this time. They are waiting for a figure. Yes, it is Bayou. The old man with glasses, King Mugayu, has already he couldn't hold back the excitement in his heart. He could finally fight Bayou again. This time he had the wings of Adam, which was bound to make it impossible for the rebels of the Straw Hat Pirates to come back. Sure enough, the frontal battlefield legend news came that the Straw Hat Pirates had appeared on the frontal battlefield, and Bayou also appeared on the warship outside the city. After hearing the news, Aoki Gyu smiled ferociously. Because of the backlash of Adam's wings, his face is very ugly now, and he has gradually lost his human shape. Let's go. Then the other 5 old stars around him, including the Navy commander Cyborg Kong, all walked out of the conference room. The majestic scene was full of momentum. At this time, Aoki Gyu did not care about the other Straw Hats in the city. He has only one target now, and that is Bayou. He really won't be able to sleep peacefully unless he gets rid of Bayou. But obviously he won't appear outside the city so easily, because Sauron is standing in front of him at this time. If you want to go out of town, you have to ask me. Sauron unsheathed several swords. Then he started to move towards Aoki Gyu. Facing a combat power like Sauron, he really can't take it lightly. After all, if you use the wings of Adam, you need to consume your own strength every time. Blood Chi has been used once before. If he uses it again, he is afraid that he will not be able to use his full strength when facing Bayou later, so he does not plan to use the wings of Adam when facing Sauron. In his opinion, although Zoro's combat power has reached the level of a general, he is still far behind. At that moment, he also directly fought Zoro. This was the first time Zoro and Aoki Gyu fought against each other. You know, this kind of role was left to Bayou to solve before, but this time Bayou may not be able to get here for the time being. The battle outside is equally exciting. Although most of the combat power is lost to a group of Straw Hat Pirates and the revolution, the military cotters were stopped, but a small number of naval admirals still came to support outside the city. In their opinion, there should be no problem if there are 5 old stars inside. They just need to prevent this group of people outside the city. Just go in. And among this group of people, there was Cyborg Kong. Looking at the crowd rushing up at this time, Cyborg Kong saw Bayou at the first sight, but what surprised him was that beside Bayou, there was its Zifa. He watched Dan grow up, but this Zifa seems to be different. You must know that the last time they met was when Zifa resigned from his rank of Navy Admiral. At that time, Zifa's hair it was already gray, but what's going on now? In his opinion, this Zifa is at least 2-30 years younger, and the white hair on that end has been replaced by black hair. Looking at Bayou beside him, I understood immediately. This Bayou is really magical. Nothing seems strange when he happens to him. He must be taken down. This is what Cyborg Kong is thinking now. But at this time, he is nothing in front of Bayou, so naturally there is no need for him to take action himself. Before Cyborg Kong could reach Bayou, Zifa had already jumped to Cyborg in front of empty space. Long time no see, Cyborg Kong. Zifa was smiling at this time, and a sense of confidence arose spontaneously. Only then did Steel Bone Kong realize that Zifa's right arm, which had been severed before, was reborn. What kind of ability was this? He remembered, at that time, even with the most advanced technology of their navy, there was no way to save his right arm. I didn't expect that you would now associate with these pirates. Have you forgotten the oath you took when you joined the navy? Cyborg Kong looked at Zifa with serious eyes at this time. He looked like a teacher educating his students.